Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater for the 28th of August, 2018, and there is, oh, Jesus, so much to get through today. Like, people keep saying, it's a slow news day. I keep seeing that all over Twitter today. It's a slow news day. It's slow if you don't know what you're looking for. It's slow if you only focus on like Marvel news and DC news, and even then, and even Star Wars news, and even then, we're going to be talking about three things involving that kind of stuff today on the show. There's a lot going on. People just gotta look through the cracks. You gotta look through the stuff. As you can see here, we've got Matt Smith and the Bad Times of El Royale, the thumbnail for today. And of course, I'm talking about both of these things. But first things first, let's talk about the new battle royale, the Bad Times at the El Royale trailer. Now, this is a new film coming out from Drew Goddard. And Drew Goddard is the writer of The Martian, who was going to be the director of The Martian. But then Ridley Scott came in and said, "Nah, boyo, it's me." And actually, I think that actually worked out for the best, to be honest with you. But he also wrote Cloverfield, and he co-wrote and directed Cabin in the Woods. And the interesting thing about this particular trailer is that they don't actually showcase anything saying from Cabin in the Woods. But if you've seen it when it came out in I think April of 2012, and you probably immediately fell in love with it because it's a fantastic little film, you can see that there are clearly similarities here. Not only is it going to be Chris Hemsworth working back with Drew Goddard again, but we also see that it's again, it's kind of like a cabin. It's a hotel between two states. It's a remote hotel. There was a remote cabin. There's secrets to be found. We just saw the two-way mirror to spy on people. People violently dying, things along those lines. It feels like kind of Joe Carnahan's Smokin' Aces is the vibe I get the most out of this film. But that being said, it looks like it's going to be very stylistic, very violent, and a lot of fun. And that's what I get from Drew Goddard. He definitely knows how to kind of bring the fun on these particular things. But it could also be a failure if it tries to go a little bit too Tarantino. If it tries to go too Tarantino, and it doesn't really have the substance to back it up. And even some people would argue that Tarantino doesn't have substance; he just has style. I would disagree. But I can see those complaints. But that being said, I feel like this is going to be that kind of film, and that's not turning me off from it. I definitely want to check it out, and I definitely want to see what's going to be happening with it when it comes out in October. So what do you guys think? I definitely want to know on that one. But let's jump over here to the Star Wars news, because the Star Wars news is, I think, one of the things people really kind of care about here. Is Star Wars Episode 9 casts Matt Smith and key role exclusive. Now, here's the thing to consider with the Star Wars casting news recently, right? We just had it come out that Dominic Monaghan from Lost is going to be joining in, and again, an unnamed role. Now we've got Matt Smith coming in an unnamed role. We have Kerry Russell in an unnamed role, and we see what J.J. Abrams is up to. He's definitely pulling from past talent pool, obviously, with Felicity and Kerry Russell and Dominic Monaghan being on Lost. And I don't think that he's worked with Matt Smith, but that being said, come on, Matt Smith just exited The Crown, and he's gotten out. He doesn't have much else going on right now, I think. Now it says here, from the Whoniverse to Buckingham Palace to a galaxy far, far away, sources tell Variety that the Crown star Matt Smith is joining Star Wars Episode 9, which is currently in production. It's unknown at this time whether the Doctor Who alum will be on the side of the Rebels or the evil Empire. Smith joins returning cast members Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Oscar Isaac, and Adam Driver, as well as newcomers Kerry Russell, Richard E. Grant, Dominic Monaghan, and Naomi Aki. Billy D. Williams is reprising the role of Lando, and Carrie Fisher will be featured as Leia Organa in the final installment of the Skywalker saga, using previously unreleased footage shot for Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Also, Mark Hamill. I love that they kind of bury the Mark Hamill lead right there underneath that. They're just like, they bury Mark Hamill. Oh, by the way, Mark Hamill's going to be returning as Luke Skywalker. That's not a thing any of you guys care about, right? Like, you guys didn't spend 9 months bitching on the internet about this. The kid to care. No, obviously not. Obviously not. And then Anthony Daniels will reprise his role as C-3PO. Sadly, Kenny Baker not there as R2-D2. Now, Here's the thing with Matt Smith, right? I'm trying to figure this one out, and I will say Grace Randolph had an interesting point that she made about this yesterday in regards to the Dominic Monaghan casting. Either JJ realizes that the production of Star Wars Episode 9 is in a bad place, and he's having trouble attracting A-list talent, given the pushback against The Last Jedi, as well as the failure of Solo, that at this point he's just casting TV stars. But I'm going to kind of, here's the thing with that is TV stars do fine in these roles. I would argue that TV stars are probably the better people to put in there. Relative, no, I don't want to say relative unknowns. You can't say Matt Smith is an unknown. But then again, I'm not a Whovian. So I know him predominantly from, you guys are going to give me shit over this one, but like Terminator Genesis was my first real experience watching Matt Smith in anything. I watched most of The Crown first season. I thought he was pretty good. But I don't kind of fall in on this stuff from him. You know what I mean? I'm not like, oh no, it's the ninth Doctor. 11, 10, is he the 9th or 10th? I don't know. I don't watch that. But I think, given who he is, I'm assuming he's probably going to be on the dark side. He's probably going to be someone coming and working with General Hux. I think Hux needs, like, I don't know, man. I just don't. They could kill him off at this point, and like just they could just get rid of Domhnall Gleeson. I think it'd be perfectly fine, because his character was as useful in Episode 8 as Rose Tico. So there's that. But looking at how JJ is kind of rounding out this cast, it tells me that they're very much trying to pull on some star power from stuff with already pretty big fandoms. Being in this case the Whoverse. Or Hooniverse, whatever you want to call it, and then does Crown have a fan base? I mean, I know it does, but it's like, are they pretty rabid? And trying to get those people to come see the movie. I think that kind of tells me, if you want to look at it from that perspective, which you don't have to, but if you want to look at it from that perspective, this would tell me that they realize that the fandom of Star Wars is broken, and they're trying to pull people in from other fandoms as a way to convert, which I really hope is not the case, and I really do hope that they tell a good story and they make a good movie. And I think Matt Smith is a fine actor from what I've seen, so his addition to it is not in any way looked at as a bad thing. But let's talk about this casting. Because what the hell? The Joker movie gets Alec Baldwin as Batman's dad, Thomas Wayne. Yeah, Alec Baldwin is going to be in the Joker movie as Thomas fucking Wayne. Huh? Like, what? Oh, and it gets worse. It gets totally worse here. Now, the upcoming Joker origin movie has added yet another impressive member to his growing cast. Alec Baldwin has signed on to play Thomas Wayne, the father of Bruce Wayne. I love how the article here then goes on to describe Batman. The project is set to begin production in 2 weeks under the direction of Todd Phillips, who previously helmed The Hangover. He co-wrote the screenplay with Scott Silver, who did 8 Mile. Now, the Hangover trilogy was good. I haven't seen War Dogs. Was that the last one he did? I mean, Todd Phillips is definitely hit or miss, but I think for what they're trying to do with this particular type of story, given who exactly the type of character Alec Baldwin will be playing as Thomas Wayne, makes some sense, I think. Now, he goes on to say here, well, we've heard many times this isn't going to be your typical comic book movie, and this can be taking some pretty serious liberties. The latest report regarding Alec Baldwin's casting confirms that. The actor will reportedly be playing Thomas Wayne as a stereotypical tanned 80s businessman, similar to Donald Trump around that time period. Baldwin seems uniquely qualified to pull this off. Not only is he a very experienced actor with both comedic and dramatic chops, but he's been playing Trump on Saturday Night Live as of late and recently scored an Emmy nomination for the work. Now listen. I am not a Trump supporter. I've been out about this in many cases, but this is a bad play. This is a bad play if this is what is going on. This is a horrible play. You don't want this. You do not want this. And the reason why you don't want this is because it's going to politicize comic books. We already have Comicsgate. If you've looked into that a little bit, you know what I'm talking about. We already know about a lot of this kind of socially progressive commentary making its way into these properties. And that's not what fans want. Fans will push back against this. They will. And it's not because they're against any type of social discussion on issues. It's because it feels like pandering and it feels ridiculously stupid. This feels ridiculously stupid. Oh my God. But okay. So but even going on to talk about here, but this Joker movie or origin movie is described as a character study that will showcase what pushes a man to become the villain we know as a clown prince of crime. Zazie Beetz, Mark Maron, Brian Callen, Francis Conroy, and Robert De Niro are all also part of the ensemble. And the thing is, that's good, man. Zazie Beetz is great. I loved her in Deadpool, even liked her in Geostorm. Yeah, I saw Geostorm. Sue me. Mark Maron on Glow and his podcast is fantastic. Brian Callen doesn't get a lot of love. He was on Mad TV for the first couple seasons, and he was great. And now he's been on the Goldbergs as the coach, and he's been awesome there. And of course, De Niro. I mean, this is a Scorsese produced film. Todd Phillips directing it. I mean, you can kind of see what's going on here. You can kind of see that this is like the fucking Wall Street of Batman movies, right? Or of Joker films. It's been confirmed Batman is not in this, so that's not going to happen, and that's for the best, I think. But this to me shows me that Walter Hamada and those guys at DC, they don't know what they're doing. Having this be more like an Elseworlds property, like a spinoff, like what they're calling a DC Dark or something, it's so. I just don't see it. I just don't see it being a good thing at this point. I really, really, really don't. I'm still going to check it out because I see these movies, I review these movies. But until I see a trailer, my interest is kind of dropped quite a bit because I think it has to. Anyway, Rotten Tomatoes is in the news again today. And this one is interesting because it's adding 200 critics because it's wanting to be more inclusive, right? Never mind the fact, I'm just putting it out there. Never mind the fact that Rotten Tomatoes as just a whole, doesn't necessarily end up getting a lot of attention in that department anyway. People don't look at the critics for Rotten Tomatoes. They look at the score. They don't care who's writing it. They don't give a shit, right? I mean, here, they only really care when the first negative review of Black Panther was from a guy from Ireland that was the movie was kind of crap. That was more Scottish than Irish. My apologies on that one. But no, I can't do Irish very well, but I did a video about that and it had 100-some thousand views on it because that was a big thing. So they want to be more inclusive because apparently reviewers that they've got are already horrible. Now, according to this, Rotten Tomatoes, the powerful review aggregation service, substantially revised its criteria for critics in an effort to include more female minority voices and better reflect podcast and YouTube reviewing. Now, as a YouTube reviewer, that's cool. I will never be included in that, though. I will never, ever, ever get there because I don't have a big of a reach at this point, as well as the fact that they don't want my commentary anyway. But podcast and YouTube reviewing, that is showing you where there is more of an influence. Now, the ESA, the Electronic Software Association, a couple of years ago, released, or it might have been the ESRB, but whatever, one of those publications released a demographic breakdown of gaming sales. What is the key, the pie graph of this. And as a result of it, actual video game reviewers that write for publications equated for 3% of total sales. 3%. Right? 3%. Whereas influencers, right, that would be podcasts and YouTubers and things along those lines, accounted for 11%. And that was in 2015. And I guarantee you it's only increased since then. I guarantee it. So I can see why they want to do that here. But at the same time, it's just get rid of it entirely. Now, it says, who qualifies as a critic has long been a touchy subject for the site, which boils down hundreds of reviews to give films and television shows fresh or rotten scores. Some filmmakers complain bitterly that Rotten Tomatoes casts too wide a net already, pulling in reviews from roughly 4,400 critics worldwide, mixing bloggers with more established appraisers. Now, again, most YouTube reviewers are just out there going yo, man, hey, listen, man, I saw this movie, man. It was good. Y'all should go see it. And then you get some that are just yes, I sat down and I watched the cinematic masterpiece known as... I think really bad. I don't know. I mean, well, Plinkett, Luke Plinkett, right? That's what it is. Red Letter Media released their review of The Last Jedi today. I guarantee you that's going to be a slaughterhouse. Their one on Ghostbusters was insane, and that is a very critical breakdown of those films, and that would be something that should be looked at for this kind of thing, especially if you're coming at it from a YouTuber perspective, because a lot of people on YouTube or podcasts are just enthusiasts. I'm an enthusiast that went to film school and worked in Hollywood. In some respects, I probably have a better understanding of how films are made, which is how I probably look at them a little bit differently and probably why I like so many of them. But anyway, Anyway, now Rotten Tomatoes has decided, however, that broadcasting its criteria for critics, more than 200 were added to the site on Tuesday, and it will make its tomato meter stronger. It really won't, because the tomato meter is already crap. Ghostbusters 2016 already proved that. Anyway, it will always be a better product if it has more voices, says Paul Yanover, the president of Fandango, which owns Rotten Tomatoes, saying, "We are still looking for the highest quality criticism." No, you're not. Among the 200 new Tomato Meter approved critics are people like Bernard Boo, who writes for sites like Film Threat, Pop Matters, and Den of Geek, and Luciana Mangus, who writes for television, reviews television shows and writes for the site The Rights of the Roundtable. Rotten Tomatoes essentially decided that it has a responsibility to give critical conversation a hard push in the direction of inclusion. Recent academic studies about diversity in film criticism field have been damning, echoing the widespread denunciation of film studios for what many see as their systemic marginalization of women and people of color. And that's an ongoing debate. I mean, you can look at like how the Oscars decided to open it up in terms of that, and then they added the most popular film category, and people are just kind of like, what? Right? Because it moves away from, I think, I'm not trying to say anyone here who wants to review films shouldn't be allowed to be on there. Absolutely. But I feel like when you make that push, you make that big public push, you're trying to ultimately kind of, I think, like protect yourself, so to speak. Now it says about 80% or 82% of the reviews aggregated by Rotten Tomatoes in 2017 for the 100 highest grossing movies were written by white critics, according to a report published in June by researchers at the University of Southern California. Roughly 78% were written by men. A separate study published in July by researchers at San Diego State University found that male critics were harsher than women on female-led films. Male critics are just, but how harsh are they on men, right? They're harsher on women? Come on. I think that's a load of shit. And of course, then it goes back to talk about Brie Larson's situation with her calling out the lack of critical diversity for A Wrinkle in Time, saying here, "I do not need 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him." Now, that is ultimately the argument here. The ultimate argument here boils down to, are these movies made for these specific people? And then should these specific people be allowed to criticize these specific films? And that ultimately is what boils down to why they did this, because they're trying to kind of maybe level the playing field a bit. But when you look at the argument of like what Brie Larson says, I don't need a white man telling me that this movie sucks. What I need is a black critic, or a black woman critic or black female critic that would tell me that this movie sucks. And then she would give it more weight, is how she's basically trying to say. And that's the big problem here, is like reviews are ultimately someone's opinion, right? Good, bad, mixed, whatever. It's someone's opinion. And when you start trying to assign people's the ability of whether or not they can review something, give their opinion on something because of the color of their skin or what genital happens to reside between their legs, that is a very, very, very bad thing to do. And you should never, ever let that happen. It should never be allowed to happen. But of course it is, because Rotten Tomatoes is desperately trying to stay relevant. They're desperately trying to stay afloat. A lot of people these days just don't care about them anymore, I think. But let's jump over to something I think people are going to care about and maybe not care about. That'd be Ben Affleck as Batman and what might cost him the cape and cowl. Saying here on Comic Book Resources, or comicbook.com, insurance costs could cut Ben Affleck as Batman. Now, this is, again, where we find Affleck in this very precarious situation, which is probably one of the reasons why there's been so much back and forth over this. Now, it says Ben Affleck's brief tenure as Batman could come to an end because of high post-rehab insurance costs. The Justice League star re-entered rehab earlier this week at the urging of ex-wife Jennifer Garner after Affleck was pictured receiving a box full of beer and liquor. According to TMC, insiders say Affleck fell off the wagon a while ago and has gotten progressively worse. Now, he's been struggling with this kind of addiction for a while. We've known about this. It's been out there for a while. And unfortunately, it hasn't really been treated any bit better. Now, recovering alcoholic, Affleck's rehab admittance marks his second in just over a year and his third in the past 2 decades. A status quo that could force Warner Brothers to drop Affleck from headlining the Matt Reeves-directed Batman or future Justice League installments because of pricey insurance costs. Let's be fair about this one. They're probably not going to do Justice League anytime soon, and the Matt Reeves-directed Batman probably won't star Ben Affleck anyway. There's been so much back and forth over that one. Going on to say here from an undisclosed or a representative, says here, more than likely, a studio will replace him because the insurance costs are going to go through the roof. An attorney who specializes in insurance and bond products explained Affleck would be bondable, but the deduction would be really, really high, probably the budget of the film. The Bond company told The Wrap that insurers could demand half of the film's budget to be set aside in escrow as a deductible, which could still prove costly for the studio. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice cost $250 million, while Justice League cost about $300 million. And the thing is, okay, the thing you have to remember about this is when it comes to Affleck, like, people want him to be Batman. They want him to be Batman. They want it. They're willing to wait, right? They're going to be bitching about the Joker movie before Batman. That's fine. And that's fine. I think that Affleck could probably, I mean, like, look at the costs. If he wants to do it, this is going to sound so fucking weird. I think that Batman could save Affleck's life just like Iron Man saved Robert Downey Jr.'s, right? Now, the thing you got to remember about that one is Robert Downey Jr. kept screwing up quite a bit. And when he couldn't get insured, Mel Gibson's actually the person who paid the insurance fee for Robert Downey Jr. to get into a movie. I think it was the Shaggy Dog, actually, to get him into it as a way, to help him get on his feet. This is what Affleck needs. Affleck got an intervention from Jennifer Garner. Their divorce is finalized. She obviously still cares about him. She obviously still cares about his well-being and clearly their relationship between him and his kids, which is fantastic. And as a result of that, it's one of those things where you're just like, maybe it'd be a better idea if you guys actually, solve this issue. Like, get him back in there and just keep an eye on him and whatnot. I think Live by Night's failure after coming off of winning Best Picture, there was so much pressure on him to make another Academy Award-winning film. I think he just lost it. And going into rehab and getting clean is going to be the best course of action. And keeping on him for a while is going to be the best course of action. Relentlessly mocking him for that tattoo is going to be the best course of action. But then also getting him back in shape to play Batman again, an utterly broken character who's lost. And keep in mind, Batman at the time we met him in BVS, he was extremely cynical and bitter at the world, which is maybe something Affleck can use to funnel into this if we're going to be getting a bit of a redemption arc in regards to that, which they tried with Justice League, but ultimately kind of came up short with. I think that's going to be a big thing. And I would love to see him come back. I'd love to see him get clean and just to kind of go back to being his old Affleck-y self. And I always hate to see people in that kind of pain. But anyway, this is interesting. This is interesting here. Hulu has now ordered Justin Roiland series for 2 seasons. So Justin Roiland, who can't keep on an actual production schedule for Rick and Morty, has now signed to a Hulu show for 2 seasons. Saying here that Hulu has ordered 2 seasons of the new animated series from co-creators Justin Roiland and Mike McMahon titled Solar Opposites. Roiland, who is the co-creator and star of the hit animated show Rick and Morty, and Mick Mahan, who is a writer on the series, are both set to executive produce and write the series for the streaming service, while the former is set to voice 2 of the lead characters, Terry and Corvo. So, okay. So what they're saying here is Justin Roiland is going to, alongside of voicing Rick and Morty, is going to then go off and voice Terry and Corvo. Now, here's the problem with Justin Roiland. He has very limited range. He's very funny, very talented, very witty, limited as hell range. Because you can tell every time he tries to do a voice of a different character, it's Roiland. And you can always hear a little bit of Morty or a little bit of Rick. He has problems with that. Like, I just, okay. I don't know here. Now, it says the series will follow a family of aliens from a world better than Earth who are forced to take refuge in Middle America and disagree on whether it's a blessing or a curse to be residing there. Roiland will also be joined by Mary Mack and Sean Giambroni for the voice cast, who will voice characters Jesse and Yumulak. Solar Opposites was originally teased in 2015 when the series was in development over at Fox, but no news ever came from the series until today's announcement, with 20th Century Fox Television set to produce, marking the first animated series collaboration with Hulu. And of course, it's coming after this is the thing, is 20th Century Fox is like, listen, we're going to be owned by Disney pretty soon. Let's commit to this, because they're probably going to end up canceling it, because Disney's going to go in and clean up a lot. They're going to clean a lot of shit from everything. And yeah. So if they can get this greenlit now and be already worked on now and in the process to be coming out, then if the show does well, then they can justify more seasons. I think we're going to be seeing a lot coming out of 20th Century Fox in terms of ordering shows and getting content out there as a way of like, hey, listen, it's kind of a going out of business sale. So why don't we just get everything we can out of off the ground right now, and we're just going to throw it all at the wall. I mean, it's a $71.3 billion thing. So like no one cares. They know the money that's coming in. They know which money they're going to be getting. People are going to be losing their jobs anyway, so you might as well have a little bit of fun with what you can, while you can. Really, I think that, and I think that's what's going on here. So here's the final story tonight. The final story, because this has been a very, very, very packed episode of the show, and I do apologize for that, but I had to talk about this one here. So Child's Play remake is getting some big changes, right? This is the MGM reboot. The one that nobody asked for, the one that nobody wants, and the one that just sounds utterly ridiculous and stupid. Now, it says here that Chucky the killer doll became a defining horror icon thanks to the Child's Play films, and that could stand shoulder to kneecap with the likes of Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, which is true because those movies are great. While the original writer Don Mancini continues to make Child's Play projects with Brad Dourif, MGM is moving forward with a remake to cash in on the famous franchise's title. As confirmed by a casting announcement for the project, the new film is abandoning one of the core components of the killer doll. Now, this is where people are going to get mad. This is where people are going to get upset, and I completely understand it. Sources revealed say that the new Chucky is a defective buddy doll whose programming code was hacked so that he has no limitations to learning and also violence. Yeah. He's now a small soldier. That's what it is. It's a small soldier. That's all it is, right? They're just ripping off a 20-year-old movie at this point. In the original Child's Play, Dourif played a killer who in his final moments invoked a voodoo spell that imbued his soul into a kid's doll, allowing him to carry out his murderous desires as he sought a human host body. Earlier reports of this film teased that the film would utilize a new twist on the killer doll's motivations, with the character description confirming how far away that concept this remake will venture. Another character description adds more information to the mix about what fans can expect from the film. One character is described as a Chinese factory worker who commits suicide shortly after reprogramming a buddy doll to have no limitations. So he creates a murderous doll and then goes, okay, and then checks out. That seems like a good storytelling device there. But that's it. That's it. Then the big question is what compels the factory worker to remove limitations for the doll, whether it be a final sadistic experiment or if he's forced by an outside source to lift those restrictions. Now, let's be fair here. It's probably going to end up being a competitor, right? Like, oh, the buddy doll is going to do quite well, but we need our Tickle Me Selmo to come out and do better. So I want you to remove our limitations. Make him violent, make him crazy, make him over the top. Do it, or we kill your family. And then, of course, the doll goes on a murderous rampage to avenge the Chinese worker that gave him no limitations and then committed suicide. Look, I pulled that out of my ass, but doesn't that kind of sound like the story itself? It does, and it's terrible. This is bad. This is terrible stuff here. It should not be. It should not be. It should just no. And that, guys, actually wraps up today's episode of 3 Book Theater. There's a lot. We went through 7 stories. That's some crazy shit. I appreciate you guys getting to the end. If you've made it to the end, type Chucky in the chat. All right, in the comment section. I want you guys to get to the end there. Anyway, be sure to leave your comments below. If you guys have any stories you want to send me, you can always find me on social media. Send me some stuff there, or the Discord's a good way to do that too. Because I check that more often. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have yourself a fantastic day and peace out.